There's a model that weighs in at 2.4 trillion parameters. You can download it right now for free. And here's the strange part. Almost nobody can actually run it. Not hobbyists, not most startups, not even a stacked 8 GPU rig gets close. So what does open even mean anymore? Because open used to be simple. You grab the file, you run the file, done. Now open means something else, something heavier, something with fine print attached. And you can't just look at the parameter count and nod. You have to read the license. You have to count the GPUs. You have to figure out whether open still means usable. Because that's the real question here. Not how big it is, but whether you can actually do anything with it. And that shift matters more than the benchmark numbers. Let me explain why. This is Qwen3.8-Max, Alibaba's flagship. And for the first time, a Qwen Max model has open weights. That's the headline. The previous Max versions stayed locked behind an API. This one didn't. And that single change resets the math for everyone watching the open weights space. But let's be honest about where this sits. Qwen is not the first to open a model past 2 trillion parameters. Qwen3 from Moonshot did that in late July. 2.8 trillion. Bigger than this. The earlier Qwen Max models, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, were API only. You could call them, you could not download them. So this is a continuation, not a starting point. Alibaba watched Moonshot move first. Now they're responding. The weights landed on Model Scope and Hugging Face on August 12th. The model is tagged Qwen3.8 2.4-A95B. That name tells you the shape. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The weights are not the same thing as the cloud model. Qwen3.8-Max is a mixture of experts model. 2.4 trillion total parameters, but only 95 billion fire on any given token. Here's how that works. There are 512 experts packed inside. For each token, 10 get routed in, plus one shared expert that's always on. So 11 experts out of 512. That's roughly 4% activation, which means the model is enormous, but it thinks lean. The sparse routing is what makes per-token inference affordable. You're not running 2.4 trillion every step. You're running a fraction of it. There's also multi-token prediction baked into the training. That's a technique for faster inference. It lets compatible engines guess ahead on the next tokens. So you get more output per second per watt, which sounds great on paper, but you need an inference engine that supports it. Not all of them do, so the speed gains depend on your stack. But the architecture has a real cost, and the cloud version adds things the weights simply don't have. Let's talk hardware first. To self-host, you need around 1.2 terabytes of VRAM. Even at 4-bit quantization, 8 H200 GPUs give you 1128 gigabytes combined. That's not enough. Not for the weights plus the context window. So you're short before you even start. Sparse activation makes the model cheap to run at scale, but not cheap to own. That's the line to remember. Now the API. $2 per million input tokens. $6 per million output. That undercuts Qwen3, which charges 3 and 15. Context window is 256K natively. The often cited 1 million is an expandable mode, with undocumented quality trade-offs, so treat that number carefully. On benchmarks, the picture is mixed, and I want to be honest about that. Alibaba claims 86.6 on Terminal Bench 2.1. An independent measurement came in at 81.3. That's a 5.3 gap, which drops it to around 10th place, behind Qwen3 at 85 and Claude Fable 5 at 84.6. But SWE Bench Pro tells a different story. 67.7%. That beats GPT 5.6 Soul at 64.6. And Deep Swede jumped from 21.6 to 56.6. Versus the previous Qwen, multimodal is strong too. Math Vision at 95.2. So the picture is genuinely mixed. You win some, you lose some, and the gap between vendor claims and independent numbers is worth watching. 5 points on Terminal Bench is not nothing. Here's why this release actually matters. First, it's the first max-tier Qwen with open weights. That resets expectations for every Chinese lab. If Qwen opens the flagship, others have to justify staying closed. Second, the license is not Apache 2.0. It's a custom license with a revenue share clause. That's a real shift. Open weights, but with strings attached. You need to read the fine print before betting a product on it. Third, the cloud version adds post-training the weight skip, real environment scaling, unified reward signals, online data balancing. So the base model is not the tuned model. Know the difference. Fourth, the community signal is loud. People testing the reasoning mode say it overthinks a lot. Quotas burn fast. Speed swings between 8 and 60 tokens per second. But the output, quote, the output was God tier. So it's rough around the edges and genuinely strong underneath. So where does this leave us? Qwen 3.8-Max is not the biggest open weight model. Hemi K3 holds that crown. It's not the cloud model you've been calling either. The weights are the base, not the tuned version. And the license asks for a cut if you make money. But it is a serious, capable, mostly open flagship at a price that undercuts the competition, with benchmarks that win some and lose some, and sparse activation that makes it cheap to run, if not to own. If you're watching the open weights frontier, this is the second domino, not the first. Watch how fast the community quantizes it. Watch whether the license scares off commercial users. And watch what Moonshot does next, because this race just got faster.